Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, I've got an absolutely massive set of patch notes now, which is quite cool, and apparently Bethesda have pinched one of my ideas for a screenshot. Although, I might have pinched theirs if I'd realised coming this far down the hill was a better idea. But there we go. So yeah, they've left this rather last minute, which is a bit, less than ideal. They had said they were going to try and avoid doing that, but my guess would be that they've been working right up to the wire, hopefully testing the patch, and didn't have a finalised version of it until very recently, so that would be my hunch. So let's have a quick look. So the first thing I want to look at is the Inside the Vault thing that they've just updated. There's notes on the patch for today. We'll have a look at that in more detail in a second. December 18th, which I would assume is next Tuesday. I haven't actually checked. Let's have a look at that. Yes, they're hoping to put one more patch out before Christmas and start the new year. So what we've got here, we're still hoping to provide one more patch in mid-December. As mentioned previously, this patch will continue to focus on stability and other concerns raised by the community, so basically what they've already been doing. If we do move forward with this patch, depends how it goes, it will be the last one this year as we shift our focus toward updates we have planned for early 2019, which will include new game content, many additional bug fixes, and more changes based on your feedback. So it sounds initially like they're not going to continue with the bug fixes next year, but that's not the case, because they've stated right here that they are. So don't panic on that, I guess, is the message. It's not that well phrased, but one more coming up next week, which will be cool. Looking forward to finding out what's in there. Usual request to continue sharing feedback. So, have a look at the actual patch notes. So that's for today, December 11th. Latest patch will bring major camp improvements, special respecking, new display settings for PC, and many new bug fixes. 5 GB for console, 3 GB for PC. Okay, that's a little bigger than the last one was. On the other hand, there's a lot here. So, we've had smaller sets of patch notes for much larger patches before, so I think things are probably moving in the right direction now. That's cool. Yeah, they've already said they're going to delay the launch of the patch on consoles, largely because they've had more issues and they can't hotfix as easily on consoles, because they have to go through Sony and Microsoft before they can actually launch a patch, so general stuff. Performance. Several improvements made to in-game performance. Okay, that's vague, but yeah, that's good. The last patch I know had its issues, but in my experience at least, on the whole it's running much better than it did. I'd like to see it pulling less off my graphics card and my CPU as well, but the game is generally running more smoothly than it was, so that's cool. Stability, same thing, more stability improvements, which is cool. So, art. Surprised lighting's under art, but okay, fair enough. We'll roll with it. Exposure values have been adjusted for exterior environments, allowing them to appear brighter in dark conditions. Basically, it's going to be less dark at night, which is cool. I think they've done something along this line before. My suspicions when the game actually went into full live release. But that's good, because it can sometimes be a pain in the neck moving around at night, especially if you're doing what I'm doing and streaming it, and you've got big lights shining in your face. Seeing what's going on in dark environments is a pain in the neck, to be honest. So, loot balance and other things. 308 ammo dropped by creatures has been reduced. Players will now receive 308 in stacks of 1 to 5 rather than up to 12 for a single kill. Okay. Not sure how I feel about that. I've had enough trouble making sure I've got enough ammo as it is. 308 is something I use a lot of because one of my main guns is my hunting rifle. Having less ammo is probably not the best thing ever. On the other hand, we'll have to actually test it out and see. Making it a little more restricted will probably make the game a bit more challenging. So, loot. Super mutants will now drop gunpowder half as often. Yeah, if you wanted gunpowder up until now, farming them off super mutants was definitely the easiest way to go. You get piles of it very quickly. Now, the rewards are going to be halved, so it would make farming less a viable option than it used to be. At least farming off super mutants anyway. Counts for additional loot has been reduced. Caps are guaranteed loot on super mutants until level 16. Okay, so basically they're less loot pinata-y than they used to be. Okay, yeah, so going and hunting down super mutant camps and cleaning them out was a good way to get a lot of guns, particularly if you wanted something that was appropriately leveled to scrap and get mods from it. It was one of the easiest ways of doing that. I'm guessing people are over farming it if they're making a change to it. Not sure how I feel about it, but I'm sure it's going to annoy some people who were farming it. There's a few things in here will fall into that category. Scorchbeast Queen will now land on the ground more often. Good for you melee players out there. Workshops. Players no longer gain XP while crafting at a public workshop. My guess here will be that people have been using it as an exploit and farming XP by just crafting at public workshops. I don't know, I can see that annoying people if they want into power level and they've been doing it that way, but on the other hand, the faster you speed through things, the less enjoyment you're going to get out of the game, based on my experience anyway. So, I don't think it's necessarily a bad change, but I can see that's probably going to aggravate a few people. Camp crafting and workshops, this is the big one. The really big one anyway. So, new, automatically remove obstructions in camps. So this is basically the bulldozer feature that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks. From the look of it, based on this video you can see here, as you can see we're just moving the turret through things here and they're disappearing. That's basically the same way it works at public workshops. Tyler County dirt track's a really good example for it because there's a lot of broken cars and stuff lying around there. And as you move objects through them, they disappear just like this to allow you to place whatever you want to place. So that's basically how that works, relatively simple. Rocks, small trees and other small objects no longer prevent players from building items in those locations. Cool. As far as building around rocky areas and stuff, that's quite a cool little change. It should give you a lot more flexibility, so that's great. Placing an object to remove an obstruction and then removing that object will cause that obstruction to reappear sometime after or upon logging back in. So basically, if it turns out you actually didn't want to put something there, the tree, stump, rock, whatever will reappear. Which could sound like a bad thing, but on the other hand probably isn't, because if you're not using the space, you're not using the space. And if you are, then putting something else in there will just cause it to delete anyway, so no problem. More of an aesthetic thing, I think, in case you change your mind. New camp placement improvements. Notification will now be displayed to players upon logging into a world if their current camp location is occupied by someone else. If they choose to remain in that world, they will be able to place their camp in a new location for free. Alternatively, if the player decides not to place their camp in a new location and instead joins a new world, their camp will automatically be placed back in its original location, provided that spot is unoccupied. Cool. Basically, the problem of having other players camping in the same place as you and deleting your entire camp, and then you having to go through the rigmarole of trying to replace it, it should, if this works properly, now be gone, which is great. What I'm curious about is whether or not it'll have any retroactive effect. As my most recent build in last night's stream, I had to change servers that ended up getting removed because somebody else was overlapping with it. And I haven't actually placed it back down again, so I wonder if I log into a server later whether or not it will automatically place it back. The thing is, you don't, from the sound of this as well, you don't have to immediately log out and change, as long as you just don't place it down. You should be able to change, you know, run around, do a few bits and pieces, and then change servers and have it come back to the same place, if you so desire. It's a little vague on that, but that's what it sounds like from the way it's worded anyway. Additional camp crafting and workshop updates. Percentage of camp's budget that is being taken up by stored items and blueprints, didn't know that was a thing, but okay, cool, good to know, will now appear in the budget bar. I've got at least one blueprint I'll be deleting when I get into game, because that's not tiny, but it's not huge either. Definitely taking up some budget though, so that's cool, it'll allow me to build more. While in build mode, players can now toggle the left joystick on controllers or press Q on PC to switch view between objects that can be built and those that cannot. My guess is that relates to the plans you've got, but I can't really be sure until we actually get into the game. Placement, you know, if you're in an area where you can't place an object, having all the objects you can't place disappear would likely, given the game's finickiness, make all manner of things disappear. So probably not the way they're going with that. You know, you could end up with like small objects only, chairs, turrets, things like that, and all your building pieces, because you've got a confined space or whatever, you know, things you never intended to build with or whatever, would just disappear. So I'd imagine it's more based on the things you have plans for. It will certainly make navigating the menus more easy if that's the case. So windmill. The power produced by the windmill has been increased from 3 to 12. I was looking at this the other day and noticed that 3 limit, which is the same amount as the smallest generator has. Given that it takes effort to get the plan for a windmill and the size of the thing and awkwardness of placing it, there was literally no point in using the windmill, because you can use a much smaller object for the same benefit. So having a larger power output is cool. That makes sense to me. Players can now purchase Atomic Shop items directly from the workshop menu. Sounds good. Simplifies things. Only question is whether or not you accidentally spend your atoms on stuff you don't want, but you know, if you hit the wrong key or something, but I assume it'll have a confirmation option, so that's cool. Progression. New special respecking. Every time a player levels up after level 50, they can now choose whether or not to unlock a new perk card or transfer one previously allocated special point from one category to another. Obviously, this is not going to let you go past the 15 points in a particular category, but if you want to max out, say, one of the other ones, so you want to have maximum strength, but you've put too many into endurance or whatever, you'll be able to shift one across instead of having a new perk card. The change is not retroactive for characters that have already passed level 50, but will apply to every level going forward. Okay, I don't know why. I assume it would just cause havoc with the login, and you'd wind up losing all your perk cards that you've claimed, and you might have a hard time remembering what you've got since level 50, particularly for the people who are like 150. So that's probably a sensible decision. The quests. Event quests. A 15-minute cooldown timer has been added at the end of each Enclave event quest. XP reward amounts have been reduced for the following event quests. Fertile Soil, Collision Course, Tea Time, yada yada yada, a whole load of them. Additionally, the cooldown timer that begins after starting each of these events has been increased from 48 minutes to 1 hour and 12. I think people have been farming the living daylights out of events in order to get as much XP as possible and to get plans and various other things. It basically means you won't be able to run events quite as often as you could before. It'll take longer to do that. UI. Here's the one I've been looking forward to on this bit. Push to talk. Push to talk setting has been added for voice chat and is set to caps lock by default. Makes sense. The toggle always run key, which was caps lock, has been moved to the / key by default. Both of those can be reassigned in the controls menu. Depth of field setting. Depth of field slider has been added and can be adjusted in the game's display settings menu. So yeah, things won't be so blurry off in the distance if you don't want them to be. Obviously, if you reduce the depth of field effect, it's going to increase the load on your graphics cards, so that's something to bear in mind. I might toy with it a little bit, but I might have to be a bit careful with that. Removing that could well drag your performance down, so it's probably something to bear in mind, even though it doesn't say it here. Field of view setting on PC. Field of view slider added, and can be adjusted in the game's display setting menus. Adjusted in increments of 5 to a maximum of 120, minimum 70. I believe it sits at about 80 at the moment. But yeah, okay, that's fine. It means you see more at the edge of the screen. Conversely, of course, if you bring it down, you'll see effectively a zoom in effect in the middle. So swings and roundabouts, whatever you prefer. Don't think I'll be pushing it up to maximum anyway. 21:9 resolution support on PC for those ultra-wide monitor users. Will now automatically detect and display correct resolution for monitors that use that resolution. Cool. And various versions of it can be selected in display settings. Cool. So, bug fixes. I'm going to try and scan through this a little more quickly and focus on the interesting stuff, because there's a heck of a lot in here. Have a look. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see the scroll bar at the side is barely halfway down, and we've only just hit the bug fixes, and that's what the rest of this is. So, let's have a look. Performance. Some of them specific to console, some not. You might want to wade through this yourself if you're curious, but there's a whole lot of bug fixes. Event achievements for a number of things are now awarding the correct one. That's good. Art and graphics. Whole load of animation fixes. Fixed issues causing vertibots and other cargo bots to exhibit odd movement behaviour when landing. So hopefully this will mean they won't just circle for ages, making a great racket and not actually land. What I'm hoping anyway, because I've run into that a couple of times. It's kind of annoying. Improved graphical fidelity for wooden objects and structures. Loads of little issues on how various effects are displayed, particularly fire. Camp and workshop and crafting. Cool. Ooh, this is a big one. Fixed an issue that could prevent a blueprint from being placed and cause a cannot place item, selected item is floating error to display. That is big. If this works the way it sounds like it's supposed to, that should make replacing camps a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, basically, if it'll go green, it should place, but sometimes it'll seem to be placeable and not be. Hopefully that should smooth things out when you're placing a new camp, or replacing a camp rather. Attempting to place a blueprint by snapping it to an existing structure will no longer appear acceptable or allow placement if it would cause the objects to overlap. So it stops you clipping things through each other by snapping blueprints to existing builds. So basically it should work more smoothly now, which is very cool. Hopefully that's a really good change that's going to work properly. Fix an exploit that could enable unlimited item storage. Fix an issue that could allow a player to unintentionally scrap their Pip-Boy. Yeah, that would be unfortunate. I've heard vaguely about that, sort of through Twitter and stuff, so a problem I think many people will be happy to see disappear. Stairs can no longer be placed in a way that causes them to clip through roof objects. That's a problem. As you'll see in the video that's coming up, I had to do exactly that in order to get some railings onto an upper area. And if I can no longer do that, it's going to take some experimenting to figure out how the heck to make that work when it's being awkward. You'll see what I'm talking about in the video that's coming up, but I'm not sure I'm happy about that particular fix, but you know. Depends whether or not they've actually made the railings snap more cooperatively, I think would be a good word. Stored. Address an exploit that causes items in the stored tab to become duplicated. Not an exploit, it's just a flat bug. I mean, some people will take advantage of it, yeah, but they fixed that issue. That came with the last patch, so that's cool. Storing a variant of an object that a player has not yet learned how to build will now cause that item to be converted into a variant the player can build. If no variants have been learned, the stored item will be converted to its base version. So this is not good. There's a big glitch that we've been using for a while. It allows you to place one object down, store it, and then move sideways through the menu and place a different version of it, even if you don't have the plans for it. They've now patched that out. You can't do it anymore. That's going to limit those of us who haven't got all the plans yet. It's just frustrating because the plans cost a lot. They're hard to get hold of. Not overjoyed about that. And it was not exactly a game-breaking exploit either, so it didn't really need to be fixed, so that's frustrating. Wind chimes can now be correctly attached to walls in camps. Yeah, they were basically unplaceable up until now. Good to see those working. Workbenches. List of available crafting materials at the power armor station now updates correctly on modifying a suit of power armor, so your resources get correctly displayed, that's fine. Workshops. After powering up a power plant, power boxes at the plant now correctly produce 400 power, and power boxes surrounding workshops will produce 100. Okay, so those weren't working properly. I had noticed that myself. So yeah, glad to see that change. Fix an issue that causes enemies to remain stationary when out of combat. Okay. Bee swarms no longer invisible. Yeah, I've run into that one. Happy about that. Honey Beast drops less adhesive. Milo Queen. Acid attack no longer deals more damage than intended. Scorch Beast in the glassed cavern, wherever that is, can no longer fly through walls. Yeah, that's an improvement. Items. Fix an issue causing bobbleheads of magazines to spawn at a lower rate than intended. It appears 16% more often now. Okay. Well, that's good. I tend to sell them, so they're worth quite a bit of money, so I'll have more caps available. Kind of counteracts that previous issue. Buying a power from a vendor will now correctly add the item to player's inventory. Fix an exploit affecting certain armor types that would allow players to gain unlimited carry capacity, basically using the pocketed mods and exploiting them. Cool. That's going to annoy some people, but it's a good thing. It's the way it should work. Several cap exploits fixed. Can't have two people taking one set of power armor. Attacking another player with a cryolator no longer drains their action points outside of mutual PvP. So only when PvP is actually activated will the effects come into play. Plasma pistols should work properly now. Somebody was mentioning this on stream last night, that they like plasma weapons, but they weren't working very well in this game. Should be working properly now. Cool. Projectile weapons no longer fire at the player's feet when aiming at a downward angle. Okay, hadn't noticed that issue. I might have run into it actually, but I hadn't noticed it thinking about it. But either way, it should be able to shoot downhill better. That's generally a good thing. Whole load of little quest fixes. And exploit fixes as well. Yeah, basically they should be, a whole load of quests should be working as intended. A number of perks apparently weren't working quite as intended. They were affecting things they shouldn't, or weren't maintaining, or persisting, I suppose would be a good word. But those should be working properly now, that's good. Turrets will no longer fire on another player who is attacked by the owner of those turrets if outside of mutual PvP. So basically you can't use turrets to spam damage on somebody when you start PvP, that's cool. On the other hand, if they fire back, then the turrets will turn around and shoot, so... But that's kind of the way it should work. Social. Friends who have been blocked now remain visible in the friends list. Help people unblock people they may have blocked accidentally. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, number of little bugs and issues with grouping up should now be fixed and working as intended. So hopefully those who play multiplayer should have a smoother experience teaming up. Or unteaming as well, from the look of that. Sound. Game volume. On Xbox, the game's audio volume will no longer fluctuate when looking through a weapon's scope. Okay, that's a weird bug. Stuff like this is interesting. Like, that's really, really strange. Or it sounds it to me. And yeah, I know people go crazy over the number of bugs and issues the game has. My take on it has been, okay, yeah, there's a lot, but on the other hand, if this was as easy as just avoiding it, you know, Bethesda would be doing it already if it was simple. Stuff like this is just flat weird. It just supports that sometimes that this is not as simple as it seems. Otherwise, stuff like that just wouldn't occur. A little bit of common sense certainly wouldn't go amiss around some corners of the internet, shall we say. Holotapes. Choosing play upon finding a holotape in the world when using the Quick Boy version of the Pip-Boy no longer prevents its voiceover from playing. Cool. I've seen that a lot. You have to go back into the menu, stop it and start it again to get it to work. So, that's a nice little quality of life fix. UI. A few things in the Atomic Shop with the menus working or not working properly that should be fixed. Challenges that are not displaying correctly or clearing or starting properly fixing. That's cool. Providing jump from space to a mouse button now takes the other commands with it, which is cool. Yeah, that's basically everything. So the big things we've got to take away from that, the bulldozer feature, a whole load of little bug fixes and stuff like that. Push to talk, depth of field and field of view, all of which are big requests. And the place something you haven't got a plan for glitch that we've been using in settlement building is no longer a thing. They've removed it. There's a couple of other little things like that as well. So yeah, some really big changes in there. Some good, some not so great. Hopefully stability will come along with it and it will be better from that point of view. I'll be finding out in a few hours. Yeah, on the whole, a very good patch. A lot of good stuff in there. A few things that will aggravate a few people. Push to talk I'm happy about. That change in... They've patched out a couple of things that maybe I think they might have been better off leaving alone, even though they're unintended, but it is what it is. I'm not massively surprised to find that happen. I know with stuff in Fallout 4 that we used for a long time that they left in, it's a little different with it being an online game. The attitude's a little different. So I imagine that's part of the motivation. There's no doubt that Bethesda knew all about the rug glitch in Fallout 4, but they never patched it out, so... Interesting that they've changed that. Can't say I'm overjoyed with the little change on that particular glitch, but I'm not massively surprised either. I thought it was living on borrowed time anyway. But there we go. We'll just have to get on with unlocking a few more plans and hopefully trying to get some caps, which apparently is also going to be harder now. There we go. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting and informative. If you did like the video, you know what to do by now. As always, you can find my social media links down in the description, and there'll be a new build video going up in hopefully a few hours as well. So, for now, thank you very much, and I'll be speaking to you all very, very soon.